The mistake wasn't pulling the trigger. It wasn't missing the shot. The mistake was a single sentence spoken to a stranger in the middle of a blizzard that could strip the flesh off a bone. I told her to take the couch. I told her to sleep. I didn't know that in her culture, a warrior offering his resting place isn't hospitality. It's a binding oath of eternal union. Now there are 3 heavily armed dropships on my front lawn, and a battalion of alien shock troopers is kneeling in the mud. They aren't here to kill me. They're waiting for my orders. The storm hit Sector 7 an hour after sundown. This wasn't a standard rainstorm. On the frontier moon of Veringard, storms were events of geological violence. The wind didn't just blow, it screamed like tearing metal. The rain was acidic enough to pit standard-issue vehicle armor if you left it out too long. Ronin sat in the dark. The only light in the cabin came from the amber glow of the perimeter monitor and the slow, rhythmic pulse of the wood stove in the corner. He nursed a glass of synthetic bourbon, neat. He didn't drink to get drunk. He drank to sharpen the edges of the silence. He was a man built of scar tissue and old habits. 60 years of life, 40 of them spent holding a rifle for the Federation, had left him with a face that looked like a roadmap of bad decisions and hard victories. He lived alone at Outpost 9 because he liked the odds better out here. No politics, no bureaucracy. Just the wind, the rock, and the perimeter fence. The proximity alarm chirped, one short, sharp note. Ronin didn't jump, he didn't gasp. He set the glass down on the table. No coaster, just raw wood. And picked up the heavy kinetic revolver resting beside it. His movements were economic. Waist motion was for amateurs and corpses. He checked the monitor. Thermal sensors were washing out due to the storm, but the magnetic anomaly detector picked up a signature. Something had crashed near the North Ridge. Not a meteorite, metal. Refined alloy. Trouble, Ronin muttered. He stood up, his joints popping, a symphony of old injuries. He pulled on his thermal duster, checked the charge on his mag rifle, and opened the heavy blast door. The wind hit him like a physical blow. A wall of freezing sleet. Ronin leaned into it, boots crunching into the mud, eyes squinting against the gale. He moved not with haste, but with the relentless pace of a predator patrolling his territory. He found the wreckage 300 meters out. It was an escape pod, sleek, silver, and smoking. The markings were Xantharian, the high nobility. The kind of people who started wars from air-conditioned offices while men like Ronin died in the mud. The hatch was blown. Dragging herself through the slush was a figure. She was tall, even on her knees. Her skin was a pale, iridescent indigo, typical of the Xantharian caste. She wore robes that cost more than Ronin's entire outpost, now shredded and stained with black oil and blue blood. She looked up as Ronin approached, the barrel of his rifle pointed strictly at the ground but ready. Her golden eyes were wide, pupils dilated. She was shivering violently, not just from cold but from shock. "Help," she whispered. The universal translator on her neck choked out the word through the static of the storm. Ronin looked at the pod, then at the sky. The acid rain was picking up. If he left her here, she'd be dead in 20 minutes. A frozen statue for the scavengers. He didn't offer a hand. He didn't speak soothing words. He slung his rifle over his shoulder and reached down, grabbing her by the harness of her flight suit. He hauled her to her feet with a single powerful motion. "Walk," Ronin commanded, "unless you want to die here." She stumbled, leaning heavily against him. She was surprisingly heavy, dense bone structure. A warrior race gone soft with politics. They made the trek back to the cabin in silence, the wind drowning out any attempt at conversation. Inside, Ronin kicked the door shut and locked the mag seals. The silence of the cabin returned, heavy and immediate. He pointed to the fire. "Sit." She collapsed onto the rug before the stove, her teeth chattering. Ronin moved to the kitchenette, grabbed a clean rag and a ration bar. He tossed them to her. She caught them with reflexes that surprised him. Good, she wasn't entirely useless. "Name," Ronin grunted, pouring himself another bourbon. "Elara," she stammered, wiping the blue blood from her forehead. "Third daughter of House Valkoru." Ronin took a sip. Valkoru, the royal vanguard. He had fought against her father's legions 20 years ago in the skirmish of the Nebula. He remembered them as honorable, deadly, and obsessed with protocol. "You're a long way from the palace, Elara," Ronin said. His voice was gravel. "Storm's going to last all night. Comm towers are down, you're stuck." She looked around the cabin. It was Spartan, a gun rack, a table, a single cot in the corner, and a worn leather couch that had seen better centuries. She looked at the single cot, then at Ronin, terror flashing in her golden eyes. She stood up, trying to regain some shred of dignity. She smoothed her torn robes. I cannot impose. I will sleep on the floor. A warrior does not take the master's bed." Ronin looked at her. He was tired. His knee was aching from the cold. He didn't have time for alien etiquette or aristocratic pride. He just wanted to sleep for 4 hours before the dawn patrol. He walked over to the single cot, his bed, and sat down to unlace his heavy combat boots. "Don't be stupid," Ronin said, not looking up. He gestured casually toward the leather sofa with a toss of his head. "Crash on the couch, it's warm. I sleep light, so don't wander." Elara froze. The air in the room seemed to shift. The crackle of the fire sounded suddenly loud. She stared at the couch, then at Ronin, her eyes wide, her breathing stopping for a second. "You..." She swallowed hard. "You offer me your hearth-rest? Your sanctuary?" Ronin pulled off his second boot and dropped it with a thud. "I'm offering you a place to pass out so I don't have to drag your corpse out in the morning. Take it or leave it." Elara looked at him with an intensity that would have unsettled a lesser man. It wasn't gratitude, it was something deeper, a mixture of awe and solemnity. She slowly lowered her head, placing her hand over her heart, then extending it toward the couch. "I accept," she whispered. Her voice trembled, not with cold but with weight. "I accept your shelter. I accept your provision. I accept the bond." Ronin didn't hear the last part. He was already rolling over, pulling the wool blanket up to his chin. "Lights out," he grumbled. He fell asleep within seconds. The instant sleep of a soldier who knows safety is an illusion, but rest is a necessity. He didn't see Elara kneel by the couch. He didn't see her cut a lock of her silver hair with a jagged piece of metal from her pocket. He didn't see her place it on his boots, a silent, ancient seal of contract. If you think you know how politics works, try surviving a night on the frontier. Out here, a handshake can start a war and a blanket can end a lineage. The morning didn't break with sunlight. It broke with the sound of thrusters. Deep, heavy bass vibrations shook the dust from the rafters. Ronin was awake before his eyes opened. Hand on the revolver, safety off. He rolled out of the cot and was in a crouch behind the heavy oak table in less than a second. Elara was already standing. She looked different. The mud was gone. She had cleaned her robes, pinned them with improvisation. She stood in the center of the room, chin high, hands clasped behind her back. "They are here," she said calmly. "Who?" Ronin growled, moving to the window. He peered through the slats. His blood ran cold. It wasn't a rescue party. It was an invasion force. 3 heavy assault dropships bearing the gold and crimson crest of House Valkoru had landed in his perimeter. The ramps were down. 24 soldiers, 7 foot tall, armored in ceremonial plate holding energy pikes, were forming a phalanx. They weren't in attack formation. They were in honor guard formation. In the center stood a warlord, massive, scars on his face that rivaled Ronin's own. He held a helmet under one arm and a scroll in the other. "They tracked your beacon," Ronin said, checking the charge on his revolver. 6 shots, 24 targets. Bad math, stay down. I'll handle the talking. If shooting starts, you run for the cellar. Ronin didn't wait for an answer. He unlocked the door and stepped out onto the porch. The wind had died, leaving a cold gray mist. He stood there, weapon lowered but ready, a lone human in a faded duster facing the elite guard of a galactic empire. He didn't flinch. He chewed on a toothpick he'd fished from his pocket. The warlord stepped forward. His voice boomed, amplified by his armor. "Human," the warlord bellowed. "I am General Kale. We tracked the Lady Elara's signal to this hovel." Ronin spat the toothpick out. She's inside, alive. Unharmed. Take her and get off my land. General Kale's eyes narrowed. He looked at Ronin, then at the cabin, then back at Ronin. He sniffed the air. You are the one? Kale asked. You are the one who issued the offer. I offered her a couch, Ronin said flatly. Because it was raining. Now load up and move out. The general's face went blank. Then slowly a look of profound, terrifying respect washed over his reptilian features. He slammed his fist against his chest plate, a salute that rang like a gong. The code is absolute, Kale shouted. He turned to his men. Present arms. 24 energy pikes slammed into the mud in perfect unison. The ground shook. Ronin blinked. This wasn't an arrest. The cabin door opened behind him. Elara stepped out. She didn't look like the refugee from the night before. She looked like royalty. She walked to the edge of the porch and stood beside Ronin. General, Elara said, her voice commanding. The human speaks truth. He offered his sanctuary. He offered the sacred rest. He shared his hearth when the storm was at its peak. She turned to look at Ronin. Her eyes were soft, possessive. He has claimed me, Elara announced to the Legion, and I have accepted. By the laws of the Valkoru, under the witness of the Silicon Storm, we are bonded. She reached out and took Ronin's free hand. He was too stunned to pull away. She raised his hand high. Behold, she declared, my mate, the new lord of the Vanguard. Ronin looked at the general. He looked at Elara. He looked at the 24 heavily armed killing machines who were now looking at him like he was a god of war. Ronin slowly holstered his revolver. He rubbed his face with a calloused hand, feeling the headache start behind his eyes. I just wanted a nap, Ronin muttered. General Kale stepped onto the porch. He towered over Ronin. My lord, the general said, his voice thick with reverence. The house of Valkoru is yours to command. Your enemies are our enemies. Your war is our war. Ronin looked at the alien general. He saw the anticipation in the warrior's eyes. They were waiting for a speech. They were waiting for wisdom. Ronin sighed. He looked out at the barren wasteland of his property. First order, Ronin said, his voice hard steel. Get those damn ships off my grass. You're crushing the perimeter sensors. General Kale didn't blink. At once, my lord. As the soldiers scrambled to obey, Ronin felt Elara's hand tighten on his. He looked down at her. She wasn't letting go. We need to talk, Ronin said. We have a lifetime for talk, husband, she replied. But first, the ritual of introduction implies you must defeat the house champion to prove your worthiness to the High Council. Ronin paused. The what? The champion, Elara said casually, pointing to the sky. Another ship was descending. This one was black, jagged, and radiated menace. It was a duel barge. If you survive, Elara added, we can have breakfast. Ronin watched the black ship land. He felt the old familiar fire in his gut, the liquid heart attack feeling, the focus. He turned back to the cabin and grabbed his rifle. I hope you like eggs, Ronin said, chambering around, because I'm going to be hungry after this. The black ramp of the duel barge hit the mud with a sound like a coffin lid slamming shut. Steam hissed from the hydraulics, mixing with the morning mist to create a curtain of gray. From that curtain emerged Vorak. He was a masterpiece of alien genetic engineering. 8 feet of muscle, encased in armor that shimmered with personal shielding fields. He wielded a double-ended energy pike that buzzed like an angry hornet. He was young, fast, and arrogant. He looked at Ronin, a 60-year-old human in a battered duster holding a projectile weapon from the last century, and he laughed. It was a cold metallic sound. This? Vorak sneered, turning to General Kale. This is the creature that claims the bloodline of Valkoru. He smells of rust and cheap ethanol. Ronin didn't speak. He stepped off the porch, his boots sinking an inch into the muck. He walked until he was 10 paces from the giant. He racked the slide of his rifle. You talk a lot for a dead man, Ronin said. 6 months later, the outpost had changed. It wasn't a fortress, but it was organized. The perimeter fence was repaired, reinforced with Xantharian alloy. A small shield generator hummed quietly behind the woodshed. Ronin sat on the porch in his rocking chair. The duster was draped over his knees. He watched the sun set over the ridge, painting the sky in bruising purples and oranges. He wasn't alone. Elara sat on the railing, cleaning a high-tech energy rifle with the same casual efficiency Ronin used to clean his revolver. She wore her royal robes, but over them she wore a flannel shirt Ronin had given her. It was too big, but she refused to take it off. General Kale was there too, surprisingly. The massive warlord was in the yard, chopping wood. He had found a strange meditative peace in the manual labor of splitting logs. He claimed it was training for the axe swing, but Ronin knew the guy just liked the smell of cedar. The council called again, Elara said, not looking up from her rifle. "Let him ring," Ronin replied, sipping his coffee. "What do they want now?" "They want to know your stance on the Trade Federation's embargo in Sector 4. Ronin snorted. "Tell them if they stay off my trade routes, I won't turn their flagship into a colander." "That's my stance," Elara chuckled. "Diplomacy suits you." "I'm not a diplomat," Ronin said. "I'm retired." "You command 3 battle groups in a planetary system," Elara pointed out. "It's a hobby," Ronin said. He looked at her, really looked at her. 6 months ago, she was a stranger bleeding on his rug. Now she was the only person in the galaxy he trusted to watch his 6. They hadn't had a wedding. They didn't do flowers or poems. But every night she checked the perimeter sensors before bed, and every morning he made 2 cups of coffee. That was a marriage in Ronin's book. "You know," Ronin said quietly, "I lived here alone for 10 years. Thought I liked the quiet." Elara stopped cleaning the rifle. She looked at him, her golden eyes reflecting the sunset. "And now?" Ronin listened. He heard the thwack of Kale's axe. He heard the distant hum of the patrol drones. He heard Elara's breathing. It was too quiet, Ronin admitted. He stood up, his joints protesting less than usual. The alien medical tech Elara had insisted on, nanogel for the joints, actually worked, though he'd never admit it to her face. "I'm making steak for dinner," Ronin said. "Tell the general to stop playing with the wood and wash up. I'm not feeding a man with sap on his hands." Elara hopped off the railing. She walked over to him and rested her forehead against his shoulder. A silent gesture of intimacy that spoke louder than any sonnet. "You are a good man, Ronin," she whispered. "I'm a stubborn old mule," he corrected. "I just got lucky with the livestock." She punched him lightly in the arm, a blow that would have bruised a normal human, but Ronin just grinned. "Steak," she said. "Rare, or I declare war." "Understood, Commander." As they walked inside, leaving the darkening frontier behind them, Ronin realized something. He hadn't just offered a stranger a couch that stormy night. He had opened the door to the one thing he thought he'd never get back. A mission, a purpose, a family. And all it cost him was a little bit of silence. Some men spend their whole lives chasing power. Others chase glory. But the smartest ones, they just hold the door open when someone knocks, because you never know what kind of life is waiting on the other side of the storm.